It was much like the process of building the tabernacle in the wilderness. And we know that everyone had a role to play. Our Torah scrolls, all 5 of them, have a unique story. The Torah scroll that you see right away in the sanctuary that's in a display case is, I think, one of the most powerful stories in the history of the Jewish people. And every week when we have a bar or bat mitzvah, as we're walking around in Hakafot with the Torah, we stop in front of that Torah scroll. And I say to our youngster, this Torah scroll that came from the Holocaust, that was one of 1,564 scrolls collected by the Nazis from every congregation in Czechoslovakia, was supposed to be used in a museum after the Holocaust succeeded. If the Nazis were successful, there would be no Jews left in the world. And so they took these Torah scrolls and other Jewish worship ritual items, and they were going to build a museum, much like we have to dinosaurs today, to show what this Jewish people was like in the world and how great it was the Nazis eliminated us from the world. However, we know that they weren't totally successful, and these Torah scrolls were collected after the war by the Allied army. Their first inclination was to return them to the synagogues from whence they came, to the communities that had used them before the Nazis came along. Well, as the Allies discovered, those communities were gone. Most of the inhabitants of those places had been killed in the concentration camps, and the synagogues had been destroyed. So they sent all these Torah scrolls, all 1,564 of them, to England in a big crate marked to the Jews. And when they arrived in the port in London, someone there called the synagogue, called Westminster Synagogue, and told them that there was a package for the Jews. And this synagogue discovered these Torah scrolls and decided that they would be the vehicle through which these Torah scrolls would find new life. This Torah scroll, like all others, contains the 5 books of Moses, telling the story of our people's origins. This particular Torah scroll also witnessed another story. It saw the Nazis come to Klatovy and destroy the synagogue which housed it. It saw the Nazis deport the good people who read from it and blessed it. It was taken by the Nazis and thrown into a pile of 1,564 Torah scrolls that were intended to be part of a museum to an extinct people, a research and propaganda institute that would justify to the world what the Nazis did as a final solution to the Jewish question. After the war, the communities to which these Torah scrolls belonged no longer existed. The Allies sent the scrolls to London, where the Westminster Synagogue distributed them to Jewish congregations throughout the world as a symbol that Judaism continues to exist and flourish long after the Nazis sought to destroy it. Today, this Torah scroll serves as a different kind of witness. It sees the vibrancy of our congregation's life. It welcomes us as we enter for study, prayer, and community activities. It hears the sounds of worship, celebrates the baby namings and weddings, and listens to our voices saying Kaddish. When we look at the scroll as we enter and leave our sanctuary, we see not just the pain of the past, but the glory of the present and the promise of the future. The mirror in this case reflects ourselves, reminding us of our personal responsibility as the bearers of the Jewish tradition. We have in our ark 3 scrolls. The one on the left is the one that came from Albert Lee. As we know, some communities lose their Jewish population. Jews move away and the population dissipates. And at that time, the question always remains, what do we do with the possessions of the Jewish community? And Albert Lee, one of the families of our congregation, the Yupin family, had given that Torah scroll to the Albert Lee community. And so when the congregation was going to close its doors, the Yupins acquired that Torah scroll and brought it here to Bet Shalom, and we use it on a regular basis. It was read as a matter of fact, by the two Yupin boys at their B'nai Mitzvah, especially meaningful events. The Torah scroll on the right came with me from Rockdale Temple in 1981. It was the first Torah scroll that Bet Shalom ever read from. This Torah scroll is used each and every week, and this Torah scroll is from Rockdale Temple, the oldest Jewish congregation west of the Alleghenies. When I brought it here in 1981, it was coming to the newest Jewish congregation west of the Alleghenies. What a wonderful transition it was to carry that Torah scroll on the airplane with me. And a very delightful story occurred because in 1981 they were already using the X-ray machines, and I had it wrapped up and secured, and I had to put it through the X-ray machine, and I put it on the conveyor belt, watching very closely because I didn't want anything to happen to the Torah scroll. And as it went through the X-ray machine, the security guard watching the X-ray looked at it, and it appeared to be barbells with the scrolls, the rollers. And he asked me, "Do you have barbells? Are those weights that you're carrying through?" And I looked at him and I said, "No, but it is heavy Jewish stuff." And I carried that Torah scroll on the plane with me and brought it here, and we've been using it ever since. It's a wonderful link, personally for me, to Cincinnati, from whence I came, and it's a wonderful reminder of the connection that we have, one synagogue to the next, far away, not only in space, but in time. Rockdale being the oldest Jewish congregation, Bet Shalom no longer the newest Jewish congregation, but still one pretty young in its history. The Torah scroll in the middle of our ark is the one that was uniquely created for this congregation. When we celebrated our 18th year as a congregation, 18 in Judaism has great significance because the letters Chet and Yud are the letters used to create the number 18, Chet being 8 and Yud being 10, and the word Chai is created between the letters Chet and Yud, and Chai means life. And so 18 becomes a significant number in Jewish life. So we as a congregation celebrate our 18th year by commissioning the writing of this Torah scroll. It's in a Sephardic case, a rounded case, and this is a Torah scroll of great beauty. It stands all the time, it's not laid down, and we use this Torah scroll not just during our 18th year. We decided then we would use it at special occasions. So at each and every Shabbat morning when we have a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, we use it uniquely at the end of the Torah reading for the youngster to be called to the Torah for the first time. He usually, or she usually reads from the scroll that's on the reading desk, but then when it comes time for their aliyah, they are called to the Torah that stands in the middle of our ark. The entire congregation rises as we open up the curtains and we open up this beautiful Torah. And for this last aliyah, the maftir, our B'nai Mitzvah enter adult Jewish life by marking their important year, the 13th year, by linking themselves with our 18th year and that Torah scroll in the middle. We have a Torah scroll that is in our auditorium in the religious school area. And this Torah scroll is used by our religious school students frequently. And this Torah scroll comes from the community of Hibbing, Minnesota, up north. When the community of Hibbing closed their doors, they decided that they wanted to distribute all their Torah scrolls to different congregations that were alive and well and growing and young. And they found us because of the Spector family. Bob Spector was a member of our congregation at the time, and he had grown up on the range, and his grandfather had brought that Torah scroll over from Russia many, many decades ago. And so Bob Spector was able to make sure that we got that Torah scroll that had been brought by his family across the ocean and now to our community. Both of his sons read from that Torah scroll at their B'nai Mitzvah. They're now in their 20s and grown up. And unfortunately, Bob died an early death at the age of 50. And so for me, when I see that Torah scroll, it's a reminder of one of the families that was a part of this community in its early years, a very active and involved family, one that had a lot to do with the growth of this congregation in its early years.